Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nancy, and I am a full-time curriculum specialist with McGraw-Hill Education. Thank you for joining me today for our Georgia Inspire Science training. So our agenda for today is going to be a quick overview of what are all of the different pieces that you're going to see in print and digitally available for students and teachers. And then we're going to spend the majority of our time on the digital navigation because we know that that's kind of like the essential piece right now, especially with so many schools and so many districts starting the school year with virtual learning. So when we go online, we're going to take a look at your lesson resources or your resources library and how to locate your specific resources for a lesson. I'll also show you where you as a teacher can access your lesson plans as well as your lesson presentation that we have already created for you. We'll take a look also at the assignment workflow. So what does it look like when a teacher assigns a video? How does the student find that video or that resource? How do they, submit it or complete that resource and let the teacher know that they have done that assignment? And then in the afternoon session, we're really going to focus on e-assessments. So we are providing you with a bank of questions as well as assessments for each lesson and each module. So we'll definitely take a look at all of the options that teachers will have inside of e-assessments. So let's go ahead and get started. Our Inspire Science program was built to prepare students to meet those performance expectations, okay? That ties in that literacy and that science integration in order to have for that STEM classroom in each one of your schools. Inspire Science is modular in design. Each grade level has 5 to 7 modules or chapters, and each module is made up of 2 to 4 lessons depending on the grade level. Each is focusing on those performance expectations. So this modular design allows you to rearrange modules as you feel necessary in order to meet your scope and your sequence for your district and your school. Every lesson in our Inspire Science program is based on that 5E lesson model of instruction. So of course you start with your engage, your explore, explain, elaborate, and at the very end, evaluate. However, even before you engage your students into the lesson, before you do that engagement piece, there's going to be one additional piece, and you see it here at the very top of my screen, and that's going to be assess lesson readiness. So I want to go ahead and start your training or continue your training the same way that you would start with your students. So assess lesson readiness in that section is going to be done through a page KEELEY probe. Now, some of you might have some of the books that Paige KEELEY has written around identifying misconceptions that students might have around the science content. So here is what a sample probe would look like. This one is, will the animal survive? So the students will be provided with a prompt. So this one just very quickly says, there is a type of animal that lives in forests. They eat tree nuts and seeds. They find shelter high up in the treetops. Their fur helps them blend in with the bark of the trees. What would happen to these animals if all trees in the forest were cut down? Circle the answer that best matches your thinking. So the students are provided with 3 different options. Option A says they would all die. Option B, some would survive if they were born with a characteristic that would help them live in the changed environment. And C, some would survive by changing their food, shelter, or fur so they could live in the changed environment. So we're asking the students at this point to select the best answer and then to provide an explanation as to why they think that that's the best answer. So every lesson will start with the Paige KEELEY probe. Now at this point in time, you're not going to tell your students what the best answer for that probe would be. We want them to hang out in that uncertainty, okay? And the reason why is because as soon as you tell them the answer, what's going to happen? They're no longer going to be interested to see what the lessons are that are upcoming. They're not going to really be as engaged with the content. So here they're kind of hanging out there and trying to see like, okay, did I get it right at the very beginning? And by the way, they will revisit this page KEELEY probe towards the end of the lesson. So they'll start off with the probe. We'll get them excited about the content. We're not going to give them, you know, what the best answer would have been for the probe, because we're going to come back and revisit the probe at the very end. Now, teachers, in your teacher edition, you are going to be provided with a suggested pacing guide, as you see on my screen right now. So here over on the far left-hand side, you're seeing assess lesson readiness. Should take about half a day. And that's going to be that page KEELEY probe, and it tells you exactly where you're going to find it in your Be a Scientist notebook on page 4. The second part is engage. That should take about 1 day. And then of course it tells you what those parts are going to be. So it's going to be the science in our world, introducing the students to the essential question, as well as those science and engineering practices. And of course, on the far right-hand column, it tells you what pages of the science notebook you're going to be using. And then right below it, it also says that you're going to be using a race car video to go along with it. Now, whenever you see the suggested pacing that says 1 day, 2 days, or 2.5 days, just know that for us, 1 day equals 45 minutes. Now, we know that in some cases, you might not have 45 minutes, depending on your grade level. Some of you might have 20 to 30 minutes, and it might not be every day, it might be every other day. So when I go online and I show you your teacher edition, I'm going to show you that there's also what we call a fast track. And you're going to see maybe that's something that would fit your schedule better than the suggested pacing guide that you're seeing right now on my screen. Along with your print resources, okay, you're also going to get digital resources to keep your students engaged throughout every single step. So it could be anything from virtual investigations, games, and videos that all tie, of course, back to the content that the students are going to be working with. One of the essential pieces to our Inspire Science content is our Be a Scientist notebook. This is going to be what the students use on a day-to-day basis. They're going to be exploring, communicating, and writing all of their findings inside their Be a Scientist notebook. You're going to find a variety of print and resources to support you and your students as you implement Inspire Science. Your teacher's edition is going to guide you through that seamless integration of both print and digital resources. Every student from kindergarten to 5th grade is going to receive that Be a Scientist notebook. That's the consumable, the soft-bound piece. Like I said, this is an interactive student journal. Students are going to record their observations, their findings, their data, anything that they've gathered from the reading. Everything is going to go inside that Be a Scientist notebook. So the Be a Scientist notebook is the primary student resource, as it will be used each and every single day of their science instruction. Students are going to access science content through a variety of resources. So for example, for grades 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, they're going to have access to that science handbook. That is a hardcover handbook. The hardcover handbook is also available online, and so is the science notebook. Now the handbook, it is important to note that it is not a traditional student edition. The science handbook acts as a research or as a reference tool that students can consult as they engage on that hands-on, minds-on inquiry activities that they're going to see. Now, for kindergarten and 1st grade, we know that they're typically not able to read science content independently just yet. So for kinder, 1st, and 2nd grade, you're going to see that you also have access to the science paired read aloud. So the science paired read aloud is going to contain a fiction and a nonfiction selection, obviously of the same concepts that the students are working with. And then you're also going to have access to leveled readers in order to help your students or be able to differentiate instruction for your students. So inside the leveled reader, it's going to be the same content, the same concepts, The only difference is the Lexile level that will meet the needs of each student in your classroom. For those of you that need your students to have more opportunities to encounter complex text, you will be pleased to know that for 3rd through 5th grade students, we also have access to content through the Science Investigator magazine, or these are articles. These magazines are digitally, but they are fully downloadable and they're highly engaging informational text. These are written on 2 levels. You're going to find them on grade level and on approaching grade level as well. You will find anywhere between 1 to 2 issues per module. And along with the integration of science with, integration of science with literacy, you're also going to find the integration of science with mathematics within the Science Investigator articles. Math and literacy connections are going to be provided throughout resources such as the Dynazikes foldables. So you'll see these built into your lessons, into the Be a Scientist notebook. And then you're also going to see for the younger ones, for the younger grades, you're going to see visual kinesthetic vocabulary cards also built in for them. Inquiry activities are going to allow for those hands-on opportunities where the students really get to be scientists and do the science, not just be reading about the science in their notebooks or in their paired read alouds. On my screen right now, you're seeing a virtual investigation. So we know that there's going to be times where there might be experiences that are just impossible for you to do in a classroom setting, right? Whether it's because they're too expensive, too time consuming, or just too dangerous to do in a classroom setting. Here, what you're seeing is that the light is shining on this dish of bugs, and the bugs, of course, are going to have this light turned on, and the students have to make predictions as far as, will the bugs go towards the light? Will they go away from the light? And then they also have to take the bugs and do a little bit of math. They have to graph their information to see what happened with those bugs when the light was turned on. And then they have to create a graph over on the right-hand side. Once they do this, they're going to have the opportunity to apply those critical thinking skills and answer some questions based around their findings. So this is, again, just a nice opportunity for the students to strengthen those math skills through their science content. Built in throughout your lesson presentation, and sometimes even inside of that Be a Scientist notebook, the students are going to come across these quick checks. So this is a nice suggestion for you, and multiple opportunities for the students to kind of collaborate and discuss their findings of what they have seen so far in those lessons or in those modules. So just know that those are going to be built in. At the very end of your lesson and at the end of your module, there's going to be some performance assessments. So at the lesson level, you're going to see a performance task. So again, some kind of hands-on inquiry activity where the students are being asked to conduct an experiment or create a model or solve some type of problem or situation. And the same thing, to wrap up the module, at the end of the module, there's going to be a performance project. So plenty of opportunity for performance assessments inside Inspire Science. And then, like I mentioned at the very beginning, we'll spend the second half of our training looking at our e-assessment tool and showing you how you can work with those sets of questions, how you can modify those pre-made assessments as well. So before I go any further into the digital piece, any questions so far on any of the pieces that I have mentioned? And yes, there is a digital version of the Be a Scientist notebook, and I'll show you where the students would find that. So I'm gonna go online now and show you what that experience is going to be. We'll start off by looking at the teacher side or the teacher center and looking at how you locate your library of resources. So when you first log into Inspire Science, and you know what, it's showing me my student side. Let me switch over to my teacher. There we go. So when you first log into Inspire Science, you're going to see that it takes you to this page. This is your home page. This is kind of your landing page. So from here, you have a couple of ways that you can navigate through the program. One of them is going to be through the menu on the upper left-hand corner. So here you are able to go ahead and see your resources library. You can go down about halfway down the list and go to your lesson plans and your presentations. You have your assessments. You even have professional development already built into the platform. Now we are recording this session to make it available for teachers, but if for some reason you just kind of want to go ahead and start digging a little bit deeper and start seeing more parts of the programs that maybe we just won't have time to cover during our time together today, once you select professional development from your menu, it's going to take you to the screen here. And over on the left-hand side, you're seeing all of the different parts of our professional development section. So this is your implementation guide. So this is kind of like a quick start guide. If you want to get more information on that 5E lesson instruction model, so here is a short little video for each one of the sections. And then you also have the assess lesson readiness probe, that page KEELEY probe. And then for each section, it's going to talk to you about that lesson phenomena in the engage phase, the essential question. So pretty much everything that you're going to find in that 5E lesson model, it just gives you additional information to just get you more comfortable and more familiar with how to follow the 5E lesson model. This is something that is completely new to you during this time. So I see another question has come in. Where can I find the teacher center? We only have student center inside of Clever. Okay, so I will talk to Christina, or Christina, I don't know if you want to come offline and let the teachers know, but you should see both. You should see the teacher center and the student center. Now they do look very similar, by the way. The only difference is going to be, let me show you real quickly. So from the landing page, you're going to see on the top right-hand corner, it says Teacher Center. And then the Student Center will just say Student Center. And obviously the students will not have access to a lot of the teacher resources, like professional development will not be there, all of the answer keys, things like that. So I'll definitely touch base with Christina and find out. Maybe they just haven't rolled over the Teacher Center just yet for the new school year is the other thing that I'm thinking about. But just keep that in mind. So you do have in your Teacher Center that professional development. Let me go back real quickly and talk to you about a couple of other things that you're going to see in there. So you have your science and engineering practices, you have your misconceptions, formative assessments with Paige Keeley. Again, we have a partnership with Paige Keeley. So she has created different videos. If you're not familiar with how to use these formative assessment probes, or why these formative assessment probes are so important to use with your students, she's created short little videos on the importance of these formative assessment probes. And the other section that she has also created for you is different strategies that you can use with the probes. So a lot of these probes are going to have some background information for the students, and then it will have, let's say, like the one that I shared with you earlier today, had 3 different options. So instead of having the students maybe always write about the probe, here are different strategies that you can use with your students. So one of them is a sticky bar graph. So if you were in a classroom setting, you could have a little sticky bar graph, and the students would just go and put their little sticky note under the choice that they think is the best choice. If there is a formative assessment probe, maybe that has 4 options, you can easily do 4 corners where the students aren't necessarily answering directly in the book first. Maybe they're kind of moving around. You know, if you think the best answer is A, I want you to go to this corner. If you think the best answer is B, I want you to go to the opposite side of the room, and so on and so forth until you have all of your 4 corners covered. So just know that there's a variety of different ways, a variety of different strategies that you can use in order to cover the content for that formative assessment at the very beginning of your lesson. And then the last part that we have in our professional development is our Dynazyke foldable. So again, if you're not sure how to use them, or what are the best strategies to use specific probes with your students, we have an entire library dedicated to those foldables. So I'm just gonna go back real quickly. So again, navigation from the main menu on the upper left-hand corner, and then you can also navigate by this blue ribbon here that you see. Towards the left-hand side, right underneath the title where it says Georgia Inspire Science, you have a blue ribbon, and this allows you to select any module. And then once you select the module, to the right-hand side, you're going to see the module opener, the lessons, and then the module wrap-up. So right now, I'm just going to stick with module number 1, and I'm going to select lesson 1. Once you select the module and the lesson, you're going to see right underneath a module video. So this is a little STEM Career Kit video that goes along with the content that the students are going to be working on in that specific module. And this is Kayla, and her little video talks about wanting to be a landscaper engineer. So I'm not going to play the video because I know that we are short on time during this training. But just know that Kayla will be there along with 25 other STEM career kids in our program. Over to the right-hand side of the video are going to be your lesson resources. So this is going to be any kind of video. These might be interactives. Anytime you see the little speech bubble, anytime you see this little paper icon, those are going to be worksheets for the Be a Scientist notebook. So you can see all of the resources by clicking on the little arrows. Right above the little arrow, the lesson resources is going to be your lesson presentation. Now, this is a pre-made presentation that McGraw-Hill has created for you, so you can use along with what your students are seeing. And then right over here where it says ebook, because I am in the teacher edition, this is going to open up for me the teacher edition on an online format, okay? So here is the lesson that I was looking at. Now I do want to point a couple of things out to you here. So remember in my slide presentation, I showed you kind of like a little screen grab, and I said this is what you're going to see in your teacher presentation, right? So over here, and let me zoom into this little piece real quickly. So I have my essential question, my objectives, I have my suggested pacing, but I did say, hey, if you don't have those 45-minute time for your lessons, I'm going to show you that there is a fast track. So let me zoom out. And I can view my teacher edition as a 2-page spread or as a 1-page spread. And the way that I'm changing between the views is down here at the bottom. I'm just clicking on this little blue rectangle and just toggling back and forth between a 1-page or a 2-page view. But you'll notice that when I look at it in a 2-page view, the very last column over on the right-hand side of the second page, and let me do this. Let me zoom in to that second page so you can see it a little bit better. So on that second page, on the far right-hand side is the fast track. So here it goes into, okay, this section is going to be half a day, and that's in your Be a Scientist notebook, pages 5 and 6. Then in the explain section, and then how you're going to evaluate your students. So pretty much if you were to look at the entire lesson plan, you're going to notice right away that if you stick to using the fast track is going to remove all of those hands-on inquiry opportunities for your students. So another suggestion that I like to give teachers is you're going from an 8-day lesson plan, which means that you're doing that 45-minute a day lesson with your students, and then you're changing it to go to the fast track, and it's now only going to be 4.5 days. However, the idea of Inspire Science is to give those students the opportunity to do those hands-on inquiry activities. So what I usually suggest teachers that want to do the fast track is start with the fast track. And let's say the regular track maybe had 2 or 3 hands-on inquiry opportunities. You might say, you know what, I just don't have time to do those 2 hands-on inquiry opportunities. I'm just going to select one and include it in my fast track pacing guide. So that's another option, or that's another way that you can go ahead and start with the fast track, but be able to still include those hands-on opportunities for your students. Is the material in the hardcover book available on the student online? What do you, so the handbook, you want to know if the handbook is available online for the students? Yes. And I want to make sure that that was a question that you were asking, Kathy. But yes, and I will show you where that's going to be located. Okay, so just know that again, from my teacher center, all I did right now was I clicked on this ebook here, and now it's showing me my teacher lesson plan. Now, I'm not going to go through every part of the lesson plan here. I'm not going to go through the 5 E's and what you're going to see for each one. I'll just do a quick mention here and there of things that you're going to see. But here, everything is color-coded, ladies and gentlemen. So you'll notice here, Assess Lesson Readiness has that yellow color in your teacher edition. And then right underneath that, you're seeing these little squares, these little slides here. This is part of your lesson presentation. So here I see Assess Lesson Readiness, and then I see these 3 little slides that go along with it. That's the lesson presentation that I'm going to show you that has already been created for you, okay? So you have, and then down here, it's also showing you that corresponding page that goes with the Be a Scientist notebook that the students should be looking at when they're in Assess Lesson Readiness. Engage is going to have that blue coloring both in the teacher edition, on the slide presentation, and the little flags for the student edition are also going to be, you'll notice here on the top right-hand corner of each page, or on the top left-hand corner of each page for the student edition, they see those blue little ribbons that say Assess Lesson Readiness, Engage, Explore, and so on. So just be aware that everything is nicely color-coded for everyone, for the teacher, for the presentation, and for your Be a Scientist notebook. So let me go ahead and close out of the ebook and go back here. So I showed you again the module, the navigation for your module and for your lessons, the video, your presentation that you have. You can launch your presentation directly from here, from your page. So if I click Launch Presentation, it's going to open in a separate tab. So here is my lesson presentation for that specific lesson that I'm on right now, which is Lesson 1. And my navigation tools are on the bottom left-hand corner. So I have my arrows to go backwards and forwards. I have the slide deck, so I can click on this little 9 squares here, and that's going to show me the entire slide deck. And again, you'll notice that each section of the slide deck is broken down into that 5-lesson model and what slides go with each part. So I have Assess Lesson Readiness and my Page Keeley Probe slides that go with that. I have Engage, and I have that Science in My World, that STEM Career Connection, the Essential Question. So everything is broken down and nicely organized for the teacher to do that slide presentation with the students already in the classroom. So let me just show you real quickly. So here's that probe, that Assess Lesson Readiness probe. So as a teacher, I would have this projected on the board, or if I'm doing a virtual class, this is something that I can have projected for my students, and we can do it obviously whole group instruction this way. The other thing, if I was doing it in class, I would have this presentation up on the board, and then my students would obviously have their Be a Scientist notebook, which is the softbound, the consumable. They would have it open to that page, and then they would be doing it together with me as well. So just know that as you go through this, everything is already there. Now, when you get to the Engage part, when you get to the Science in My World, the students in their Be a Scientist notebook are going to have a very small black and white version of this picture that is a part of your lesson presentation. So here it says, look at the photo of the waterfall. And then of course, in the teacher edition, there are going to be some guiding questions for the teacher to ask when it comes to the photograph that the students are seeing. And again, the students will have a black and white copy of this in their student edition. And actually, you know what, let me do this. To kind of show you what that student edition is going to look like, or what that would look like for the students. So here, I'm going to go to the Be a Scientist notebook. Here's my PDF. So here's my Assess Lesson Readiness. Oh, give me 1 second. It seems like my PDF, it's telling me I have 16 pages, but it's not letting me go past page 1. Okay. here we go. So this is, oh, I scrolled too fast. Let me go back up. So this would be what the students would be seeing in their book. So they would see, look at the photograph of the waterfall, and like I said, they're not seeing it in color. So that's why you as a teacher would project the lesson presentation for them this way so they can see that, that picture in color. But just know that all of those little slides go with what the students are going to see in their Be a Scientist notebook. So the next piece was that STEM career and so on. There's my essential question. There's that science and engineering practices. So all of these parts that the student is seeing are going to be included in that lesson presentation for the teacher. And again, the way that I got to see that student experience was from the Student Center. I selected the module, selected the lesson, and then over here on my lesson resources, I know that the lesson resource that goes with that one is this little paper icon or this little paper thumbnail here. So that's going to be my science notebook. So as a student, I can just click on it. Here's my science notebook thumbnail, and then I can launch that resource as well. And I can see what the teacher is seeing. Okay, so you can see the resources there. Another way that the teachers can see the resources is by clicking on the menu icon on the upper left-hand corner and then selecting resources. So once you're inside of resources, you have two drop-down options here. The first one is for your module, and the second one is for the different lessons or the different parts of that module. So let me show you real quickly. At the module opener, you're going to see that there is a module opener presentation for you. This is also going to be where you find your leveled readers, okay? So remember, your leveled readers are going to be available in 3 different levels: approaching, on level, and beyond level. So you can easily assign these to your students as well for them to complete online or to view online. And the other nice thing about the leveled readers is that they do have audio support built in. So the students can simply click on the little speaker icon, and then that text will be
locating the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon lies on the Colorado Plateau.
And as you can see, it also tracks each word as it's being read to the students online. So you have your leveled readers. Now you'll notice for this particular module on Earth's rocks and soil, there are 2 sets of leveled readers. So one is on the Grand Canyon, and the other leveled reader is on what is happening at the beach. So just know that's at the module level. Now, if I go to the lesson level, if I go to module 1, lesson 1, again, I have the lesson presentation, and then I have all of the individual resources that are either in my lesson presentation or enhance the lesson concepts that my students are working with. So here is that Be a Scientist notebook that somebody had asked earlier, if you can access it online. So here it is. And then right behind it is the answer key. So those are all of your lesson resources there. But remember that most of your lesson resources are already going to be built into your lesson presentation. This is just separate resources that you can assign to your students. So for example, let's say that I wanted to assign this little virtual investigation for my students on rocks and minerals. So any resource you'll always see has this little gear. So if you want to assign it, you just click on the little gear and select assign this resource. And it's going to take you to put in your assignment details. So right here, I'm going to say this is rocks and minerals. And I could put in here digital investigations, but I know that this is digital. This is a digital investigation. I can give some instructions here for my students to just kind of, you know, complete the virtual investigation at their own time, on their own, at their own pace. I have a start date and a due date. So maybe this is something that I want to make available to them all the way to next week on Friday. So this is my due date. My expiration date is a little bit different. I'm expecting all of my students to have gone in there by the 21st, which is my due date, and already done the virtual investigation. But I know that maybe some of them won't have time to do that by then. So I can extend that expiration date and say, okay, they could do it on the 21st, or maybe I'll give them up until the following week on Wednesday to at least go in there and do that virtual investigation. Further down, I have my students, so I can select one student if that were something. Maybe this was a leveled reader. So if it was a leveled reader and I only wanted my approaching level students to have that approaching leveled reader, this is one way that I can go in and I can check off specific students. But this resource here, I want all of my students to have. So I'm just going to click on that very top box to select everybody to have that resource. You'll notice that the resource already came in from the resources library as an attachment over here on the far right-hand side. And now as a teacher, I'm just going to click the assign button to complete the assignment. This is my little confirmation here that lets me know that that resource has been assigned to my student. So what I want to do right now is I want to go to my student side and show you how the student locates these assignments. Now, I had assigned another activity for my students, and you'll see that when they get to their home page, looks very similar to the teacher side, right? I have my blue ribbon, I have my menu on the upper left-hand corner, I have over here my lesson resources, and then of course, when the student clicks on ebook, okay, they're going to get access to that Be a Scientist notebook, similar to when the teacher clicks on ebook, you get your lesson plans. So here the student clicks on ebook and they get their Be a Scientist notebook. Now, once they're inside their Be a Scientist notebook, let me change my view to one page and let me zoom in a little bit so we can see everything that's going to happen here. So here is my assess lesson readiness. This is my page KEELEY probe for lesson 1. Which friend has the best idea about the shape of rocks? So Lourdes has an explanation. Jill and Chris also have an explanation. And then the students are being asked which friend do they agree with and to explain why they agree with that friend. So a couple of tools that are available to your students. They have a highlighter tool, so they can go ahead and maybe highlight the person who they agree with, especially for the little ones, if you know that it's going to take them a really long time to choose somebody or to write who they're choosing. This is kind of one way that they can do it. They also have a pen tool that allows them to annotate directly on the ebook. And the nice thing about all of these annotations is that as the students are making these annotations, everything is being automatically saved. So the next time that the student goes in here and looks at this lesson, or the parent opens up, you know, to see what the student has done inside their Be a Scientist notebook, all of these annotations will be saved for the student and for the parents to see. The other thing that you have here is a little sticky note. I would say that this is more than anything a resource that I could see maybe 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students using. So if this was something that my teacher says, I need to study this for the test, I'm going to put a little sticky note and click post. And now I could put that sticky note anywhere on my science notebook content. So just know that that's available. So again, all of these annotations that the students can do will automatically be saved. So that's the Be a Scientist handbook. Now, right below their lesson resources, you're also seeing that it gives them a homework list. So these are any assignments that the teacher has assigned to the students. Now, these are not hyperlinked. So as you can see, I'm trying to click on it on my end and it's not doing anything for me here. So I see there's a question that came in. Is the teacher able to see each student's annotations? You know what? I will double check that for you. I don't believe so. Not online. The student annotations are specifically for online, but I can confirm that. Just give me 1 second and I'll double check that for you. Okay, so back to my homework section real quickly. So you'll notice that it says landscaping video has been assigned, but then I can also click on more. When you click on more, it's going to take you to your homework section. Another way to get to your homework section from the landing page is to go over to the left-hand corner and click on menu as a student, and then select homework from the drop-down. So either way takes you to the same page that I am on right now. So you'll notice there's a couple of sections here. There is work that is due like upcoming in the next couple of days. And then here I have work that is due later. So remember, I assigned this one for to be due on August 21st. So that is why this is under the due later section. And the only one that is due on the top section is anything for this week, for this upcoming week. So here I gave my students some instructions just to watch the video and be prepared to discuss in class. So there's my Kayla, the landscape architect here. And once my students click on the thumbnail, it will open.
Hi, I'm Kayla, and every spring I help my grandma plan our flower garden, just like a landscape architect. Landscape architects make plans and decide what plants go in a garden for a museum or park. They might also help businesses plan with the landscape around their.
So again, I can go full screen. I don't know if you saw real quickly, I have closed captions that I can turn off or I can turn on for English, available for the STEM Career Kit videos. And once the students have finished watching the resource, they can go ahead and click done. The same thing goes for this other resource here. This one was a digital investigation. So the students, again, would just click on that resource. It gives them an explanation as to what it is that they're going to be doing with this virtual investigation. So they're going to be examining 5 different samples of rocks. They're going to place each rock under the magnifying glass, and then they're going to observe how they are alike and how they are different. Rocks have different shapes, different sizes. They can be made of different minerals. They can have this read aloud to them. They can just go ahead and click next. It gives them the instructions on how to carry out the investigation. So let me go ahead and close this out. So I would click drag as a student and then drag the stone. And when I click probe, I can actually see what materials this stone is made of. And you'll see it up here on the top left-hand corner. It will tell the students that information. So once they're ready to drag the next rock in, I could say, okay, let me drag in some granite, click on probe. And then again, it gives them the information of what makes up that stone. So again, once the students are done with that investigation, they simply click done. And now the teacher knows that they've gone in there and they've watched the video and they've done the digital investigation that has been assigned to them. Any questions on assignments so far? Okay, I see a question come in. Since our students are virtual, can the teacher see if they finish an assignment? Can we see their answers to probe online? Okay, so if the teacher wants to see, and mind you, the 2 that I did are probably not the best examples because the students are not having to do anything with that video as far as submitting any work to me. But let's say that I wanted to see if they've gone in there and watched the video or done the virtual investigation. So for the teacher, they would go to menu, assignment tracker, and then here I see the 2 assignments so far. There's my landscaping video, there's my rock and minerals video. So on the far right-hand side, when I click on the details link for any one of these, it's going to tell me what student went in there, watched the video, and then that they clicked submit so that I can see when they did it. So you're able to see it that way. Now, if it's something, and you can come off mute if you want. Are you thinking more of like the science notebook maybe? Is that what you were referring to? Like if you wanted to?
Really either one, because they're going to be virtual all the time. So I just want to make sure that they're keeping up with their assignments and their understanding.
Okay, so for example, remember that when I open this science notebook up, this is going to be everything for that lesson. So when I click on it, this, I believe this, yeah, 16 pages. So this is going to be 16 pages all at once assigned to the students. So I just want you to keep that in mind. Now, Christina did mention to me that your students were going to get this this consumable piece sent to their homes. So they'll actually be able to interact with that consumable piece, because if you notice right now, this is a flat PDF. There's no way that the students can type on this PDF right now. The only way that the students can actually access that PDF would be to go to their student center, and you just have to tell them, because there's no way that you can assign them the ebook because they already have access to the ebook. So this would be the only way that they can actually go ahead and, you know, circle the best answer and then give their explanation, you know, down here. I'm just going to scribble something down there. But that would be the only way that you can actually get them to write on it. Now, my only thing with that, though, is that let me double check something, because I told you that I was going to see if you were able to see theirs. And from my teacher side, let me go back here.
And Nancy, while you're finding that, Kathy, you brought a great question. So some of the things that I was thinking about is maybe that students could share their screen in the Zoom and then turn their microphone on in order to justify their choice. So maybe if there are 3 choices, maybe they're putting a number in the chat area of your Zoom, and then maybe we can think about a way to take a screenshot and integrate Canvas, the learning management system, so the assignment is also there, and maybe they can take a picture of their Be a Scientist notebook and upload it in Canvas. So I'm thinking of some ways, but that's a great question, Kathy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and you know what, Christina, you just brought up a really good point. And to answer your question, no, the teacher does not have access to see those annotations that the students make on their book. And I'm just going to take that down as something to just take back to our team. That would be extremely useful, especially in this time that everybody's in, having to do a lot of things virtually. So I'll definitely go ahead and take that back as a note. But I like the suggestion that Christina gave, which is having them either take a screenshot or take a picture, or, you know, having, especially for the little ones, obviously they're going to need help from, you know, an older sibling or a mom or a dad. But taking a picture of the work that they've done in their book and then uploading that into Canvas so that you're able to see it that way. Okay. So I showed you your resources library. I showed you how to create an assignment from there for any resource that you have access to inside of there. The next thing that I want to show you is your lesson plans and your lesson presentations. And real quickly, before I do that, I just want to show you real quickly on the student side, the lesson resources they have access to as well. So they can simply click menu and then select resources from the drop down, and they'll see those resources that, again, they don't have answers, they don't have access to answer keys and things like that, but they do have access to their Be a Scientist notebook. I know another question that you all had asked me was, especially for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, if they will have access to the Be a Scientist resource book, the handbook, which is the hardcover one. And the students do have access. So they can simply go again to that blue ribbon, select Program Resources, and then here they can see that Science Handbook. And that Science Handbook is going to open for them in a separate tab, just like the consumable, the notebook is. And they'll have annotation features as well that they can use here. So they'll have the table of contents is the first icon. So they can select from, let's say if we were doing Earth's surface, they can click on the little drop down, select rocks and minerals, and it will take them directly to that page that they want to start on, or to that lesson. And then same annotations, they have the little tools, the pencil, the highlighter, the pen tool that they can write on their book with. So just know that the students do have access, again, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade do have access to that, that resource. Let me go back to my teacher center. Let me show you your lesson plans and your lesson presentation. So we're going to click on menu, scroll down to plan and present. And once you're inside of Plan and Present, again, you have your blue ribbon. So you would select the module and then select the lesson. So once you select the lesson, this is going to be the same information that you're seeing in your print teacher edition. The layout is just going to be different. So it's not as visually appealing with the colors and the little call outs and the pictures and things like that, but just know that the information is the same. So for lesson 1, it's going to provide you your lesson planner. So you're going to see that essential question, the objectives, the science background, the misconceptions. Here's that suggested pacing guide that I had shown you earlier that you can get to. And then each one of these, the 5 E's, is going to have the information and the resources. Again, same as what you're seeing in the teacher edition. So here, for example, you're having your students look at page 5 in the Be a Scientist notebook, and they're going to be looking at that photograph of the waterfall and the rock. Remember that I said in your teacher edition, you're going to have some guiding questions. Here are the guiding questions that you're going to see in your teacher edition and on the digital lesson plans that I'm showing you right now. So the same thing, the next part would be the STEM career connection, which is a gem cutter, the essential question, the science and engineering. So nothing has changed there as far as your lesson plans. Now the lesson presentation is at the very top here. And when you click on the drop down, you'll notice that inside the lesson plans, you now have 2 different drop downs here. So from here, you have the option to launch the presentation the way that McGraw-Hill has created it for you, or you also have the option to click the launch editor and to hide or to move slides around. So for example, I have here in Assess Lesson Readiness, I have my introductory slide, I have the page KEELEY slide, but maybe this second slide I'm not going to use because all it's really asking my students is to explain why that's their answer or why that's the best answer. So I can just click on the top right-hand corner. There's a little eyeball with a line through it, and I can just click on that, and that slide is now going to be hidden. It's not going to be part of my presentation. It will still be part of the original McGraw-Hill presentation. It just won't be in my presentation. The other thing that you can do is you can move slides around. So maybe I'm going to hide this first slide as well, and this is going to be my starting slide. You'll notice that there's also these little cross arrows here that intersect, and you can click on the little cross arrows and move those slides forward if you needed to, or move them back, whatever you wanted to do. If you're doing the fast track where your students are not going to have those opportunities to do the hands-on inquiry activities and you don't want it to be part of the lesson presentation, again, just know that you can come in here and you can click on that hide icon, and that's going to be hidden for you. Once you're done editing your presentation, any little changes that you make automatically get saved. So once I'm done, I can go ahead and click on the X on the top right-hand corner. And now when I click on the drop-down, I have 4 options. This is the original McGraw-Hill presentation. This is for me to continue editing the presentation. This is my customized presentation, which was, the couple of slides that I hid and I moved around. And then if I just want to reset the presentation again to start editing it from the very beginning, I can also reset the presentation as well. The other thing that you'll notice is that because I've made changes to this presentation, if I go back to my landing page here, when I click on the drop down, I'm still going to see, let me select the lesson. I'm still going to see the option to launch the original presentation, or I can launch my customized presentation that I just made changes to. So just know that the first time I had not made any changes, so my only drop-down option was to launch the original one. But now that I went in there and I made some changes, I have 2 options in there. Let me go back real quickly to plan and present. The other nice thing is that you are able to print out these lesson plans. So if something happened and you needed to leave some instructions printed out for your substitute teacher because they can't access the digital part for you or for themselves, I'm sorry, they can go ahead, or you can go ahead and provide them with a print copy and just kind of check off what parts you want to print out for them and which ones you don't want to print out for them as well. So that is your lesson presentation. I know we have 4 minutes, and I just wanted to give time in case that there were any additional questions that I can answer for you before we go into e-assessments later on. No questions? Okay. So, Christina, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here for the first session. And then when we come back for the afternoon, I'll go ahead and I'll do a separate recording.